And if you notice, I actually wear blue more than any other colour. And when you start working with your creative energy, you're actually starting to pump the energy between the throat chakra, because it does not just about speaking, it's actually about getting your creative energy out into the world. The throat chakra is for all sorts of communication, psychic communication. It's got to be working properly. And the orange represents the creative energy, and the two of them together are sort of like a pump. So when I look at what I'm doing on the page, I'm not only pleasing myself, but I'm actually setting up a healing channel for other people to look at. And I think what I've seen so far is when I do the things that I really am impulsed to do and that I'm attracted to do, there's an outcome that goes further than what I think it will, with the effect it has on other people, as I saw when I published my book. A lot of people gave me feedback that was so outside what I thought I was actually doing when I was writing the book, but everybody gets their own sort of personal thing out of whatever somebody creates. So, I mean, for me, this was like you've done lots of different blues and you've made textural stuff, and that was very exciting on this craft card too. So that's given me a lot of, it's taken away a lot of the fear about just having a play around with it, because I'm one of the kids that had the coloured pencil block, you know, just getting crappy coloured pencils and the Derwent pencil envy. Apparently there's a lot of people like me who didn't get the Derwent pencils. And then there's this one, which is a totally different, unexpected colour palette. So here's you taking my work and having a bit of a play with the colour and then handing it back to me and saying, I love you. But that's, to me, that possibility has opened up for me, whereas before I did this experiment digitally a couple of years ago. As we were talking yesterday, I think he's quite ugly. I mean, he's supposed to be this guy here, and this is Kathy's, copied another, because I've let them morph. That's the other thing. I haven't done a character design sheet. I haven't done a character turnaround. Every time I've drawn them, I've let them come out the way they've wanted to come out, or the way my pencil goes. And they've sort of kept similarities, but they have sort of changed and developed. And what I've sort of looking at finishing it off, after at least 2 years of not touching it, if not more, I've actually got a better sense of how I want the cartoons characters to look, and perhaps the way to actually finish the whole project.
I guess if you the first step is to get to make sure your ink drawings are ready and put them in, and the colour can come later, especially if you're doing that on the computer. That's sort of for another time, but at the moment, you know, getting it all organised and up there on the computer screen, it will be another step forward. And we've worked on the pagination, this is the start of it, and so now you've got a bit of an idea of how it may lay out. Because what sort of size are you looking at this?
Well, I'm still looking at like an A4 landscape size.
So it'd be quite a large book.
Well, I like this sort of, well, I mean, that's even bigger, but I like this, the way the landscape works. That's what I'm thinking of. And like finishing this off, like I sat down for the 3 nights before you came, did those ones over there. So what I did here was I did little pencil thumbnails that started off about that big. So they're even bigger than I normally do a thumbnail, because I literally make them just a bit bigger than my thumb. So that's the way I started, and I had 3 nights, and I wanted to get to the end of the story. And I'd had some flashes on it, and I think I'd sat down a few weeks ago and I'd done a couple of pages. Where are they? I'd done a couple of pages of sort of panels that were bigger than the thumbnails, just in pencil. I ended up with about 35 more panels. And I got to the end of the story, because I actually knew where they'd end up, but I didn't know how they were going to get there. I could always see it's kind of like the last what I thought would be the last frame. But I had no idea. I think a couple of weeks ago I sat down and I sort of looked at it and just did the same thing, let the intuitive process happen. And I went through this wacky storyline to get them from where I'd left off a few years ago to where they are today. And I actually managed to bring the story together to get to the ending that I'd always imagined.
Great.
So then I had all these pencil drawings on about 3 or 4 pages, and then I thought, well, I know what's going on, but it's a bit hard to see. So then the last 3 nights I was making these little ink drawings. I was inking them up, just tracing them. So I've kept the originals as part of the historical thing so I can show people, but I photocopied them and I put ink on them so that they were easier to read.